Bharatam Mahabharatam Dharma Adharma Sangharshanam Pakshi Prani Manava Cha Deva Dharma Adharma Panchalika Jnana Prabhasita Divya Jivam Sarve Sarva Maha Amritam Sarve Sarva Maha Amritam Bharatam Puru became the king. From there, his descendants later on came to be known as Kurus, from which both the Pandavas and the Kauravas come. The whole story is about this clan of people. From Puru down, a few generations down, you have definitely heard of Vishwamitra for all the wrong reasons. Vishwamitra was a king who was then known as Kaushika, looked at the rishis, the sages, the power that they had. Somehow he felt the power of the king is too little compared to the power of the sages. So he wanted to become a sage, though he was born a king. So he took to the forest and started doing serious austerities. The intensity with which he was going, Indra felt if he achieves to what he is aspiring for, his own supremacy will be in danger. So he sent his honey trap agents. He sent Menaka. Menaka's job was to seduce Vishwamitra and distract him from his austerities and sadhana, which he successfully did, and they bore a child, which is this girl child. And Vishwamitra became furious because after that much of time, he realized that all that he had earned through his sadhana, he lost because of this distraction. So he gave up the mother and the child and walked away. And Menaka being an apsara, that she's just a visitor, her visa is of a limited period. She wants to go back and she can't leave the girl with the father because the father doesn't want. So she left the girl on the banks of river Malini and went away. The shakun birds who noticed this little girl somehow took to the girl and they protected the girl from other creatures and kept her that way for some time. Then sage Kanva, who came that way, saw this strange situation where a little infant was being protected by the birds. So he picked up this child, and because she was being protected by the shakun birds, he called her Shakuntala and took her to the ashram and brought her up. She grew up into a fine young woman. And one day Dushyanta, the king, went on a campaign, a battle, and on the way back, he wanted to feed his soldiers, so he came into the forest hunting indiscriminately, killing as many as he can to feed the army. And he particularly shot a very large male stag. His arrow found its mark, but the stag ran away, so he followed. And the stag he found in the hands of Shakuntala. It was her pet stag and she was nursing it with great compassion. When he saw this, he fell in love with her and stayed back there for some time. And with Kanva's permission, he married her there, and then he had to go back because his whole army was waiting at the edge of the forest. Then he said he will go back, set things right in his kingdom and come back. And as a mark of remembrance and as a mark of the marriage consumed, he took out his official ring and put it on Shakuntala. Naturally, it did not fit properly. And he left, he said, I'll come back for you. So Shakuntala was in a dream. This forest girl suddenly became a queen, an empress. So she was constantly in a dream mode. So she was sitting in a dream mode. Sage Durvasa came to Kanva's ashram. You heard of Durvasa. He's an angry man. He came, he addressed her, but she was in a dream state, eyes open, but she couldn't see anything. So he felt that she's insulting him, and he said, whoever is holding your attention right now, may he forget you forever. Then she came to her senses. She cried, it cannot be, why did you do this? And then people in the ashram explained how she's been married to the king and she's waiting for him to come and take her, and she was in a daydreaming state, please pardon her. Then by then, hospitality was taken care of for Durvasa and he was little cooler. Then he said, okay, let me correct it. Yes, he's forgotten you, but the moment you show some kind of a memento, the moment you show something that reminds him of you, he will remember. So Shakuntala waited and waited, but Dushyanta never came. So she bore a child, whom she called as Bharata. It is his name the nation carries today. This is known as Bharat or Bharatvarsh, because the nation is named after this emperor for his many qualities, many. I will not go into it because it's too many. He was an ideal human being. So he grew up in the forest. Dushyanta never came. And one day Kanva said it's appropriate that you go and ask the king, remind the king that you are his wife and you have a son. It is not appropriate that a king's son is growing up not being in touch with his father. So, taking this young boy, Shakuntala went towards the palace. They had to cross a river. She was still in a dream love affair. So dreaming as she was crossing the river in a boat, she put her hand out just to feel the water, and the oversized ring went away into the river. She did not even realize this. She went there, she was innocent of the ways of the kings and palaces. She went there into the king's court, and when Dushyanta asked, "Who are you?" he said, "Well, don't you remember, I'm your wife, Shakuntala. This is your son." Dushyanta became furious. "How dare you? Who are you to even say such things?" And she was ousted out of the place. She did not realize what's happened. He loved me so much, and now what has happened? He's completely blanked out his memory. She came back and she was distressed. For the first time, she had a brush with the society. And she went deeper into the forest from the ashram, and she just lived with his son and the wilderness around her. Bharata grew up with the wild animals, very brave, very strong, very much a part of the earth upon which he lived. One day Dushyanta came hunting into that forest, and then he saw a young boy playing with full-grown lions, riding elephants. Then he looked at him and asked, "Who are you? Are you some kind of a superhuman being? Are you a god? Have you come from somewhere?" Then the boy said, "No, I'm Bharata, the son of Dushyanta." He said, "I am Dushyanta. How come I don't know who you are?" Then Kanva came and explained the whole story, and he remembered, and he took Shakuntala and took her back. And Bharata had many sons, but his own biological sons, he looked at them as they grew up and he said, "These are unfit to be kings." He had 5 sons. Each one of them, he checked them and he said, "These cannot make good kings for my citizens." This is the first time a king is showing a wisdom where just biological connections are not good enough to be a king. Just because you are born to a king, you need not be a king. He manifested this. This was greatly valued. And this is one reason why his name was given to the nation, because he discarded his own children and looked for an appropriate king. And he found the illegitimate son of Brihaspati, called Vitata, who was born to Mamata, who was Brihaspati's brother's wife. Brihaspati, in a moment of absolute indiscretion, forced himself upon this woman, and Vitata is a kind of a victim of rape, and he chose that boy as the king, and Vitata became a great king and ruled for his lifetime with great wisdom and balance. So Bharata was celebrated for his balance of mind, for his impartiality, for his sense of inclusion with his citizenry in such a way that he rejected 5 of his sons and gave his empire to another boy with whom he had nothing to do and an illegitimate son. So Vitata, from there down 14 generations later, Shantanu. We are coming down to the story now. Shantanu is the grandfather of the Pandavas and Kauravas. Shantanu, in his previous life, was known as Mahabhishek, and he lived a full life and entered Devaloka. He was sitting in Indra's court or Astana. There Ganga, goddess Ganga, came visiting, and it so happened, in a moment of unawareness, her dress fell down and her upper body was exposed. And all the other kings, as the proper behavior was at that time, put their heads down. Ganga was unaware of her condition, all the other men put their heads down. But Mahabhishek, who was new to Devaloka, kept staring at her. When Indra noticed this impropriety, that he was staring at Ganga without exhibiting the necessary culture and civilization of being in Devaloka, he said, "You are unfit to be in Devaloka. You go back and be born as a human being again." And then he looked at Ganga and he noticed Ganga seemed to be enjoying the attention. He said, "This is completely inappropriate. You seem to be enjoying the attention. You also go back. Be born as a human being. Go through all the pains and pleasures of being human. Go through that phase. When you're free from this pride, you come back." So Mahabhishek was born as Shantanu. Shantanu is to meet Ganga, but he is not aware. His memories of previous lives are not in him, but it is there in Ganga. So Ganga is trying to draw him towards him, but being a king, he is wandering all over. Shantanu was a fine hunter. For him, hunting was his worship. When he went hunting, he became so one with that act. For him, his hunt was his worship. The river Ganga was flowing by, but he's not a fisherman, he's a hunter. So he has no attention towards the river, his attention is towards the hunt. Ganga waited. For weeks on end, he hunted on the banks of Ganga, not paying attention to her. Then when thirst overtook him, the problem is, whenever he's thirsty or hungry, whatever, there are people supplying, so he doesn't go to the river. One day thirst overtook him in such a way, and no soldiers or any of the people who serve him were around. So then he thought of the river, came in search of Ganga. So Ganga arose from the river as a woman. The moment he set his eyes upon her, he completely fell in love with her. Once again love took over. On a certain day, the king of Chedi, Purichara, was in the forest hunting. And as he spent weeks on his hunt, he bore a child upon a fisher girl. She delivered twins. These two were named as Matsya Raja and Matsya Gandhi. Out of these twins, the king chose to take the boy with him and they left the girl back with the fisher folk. So she grew up as Matsya Gandhi, that means the smell of fish. No, not always bad. It depends where you come from. So she was growing up in another place. Then Shantanu met Ganga and he requested her, he pleaded her, "Please marry me." Ganga set a condition, "I will marry you, but no matter what I do, you should never ask why. You should never ask me as to why I'm doing what, whatever I do." Anybody up for a wife? Shantanu was so madly in love with her, he said, "Yes, I will never ask whatever." So she became his wife, an incredibly beautiful and wonderful wife. And then she became pregnant. She delivered a fine son, and at the first instant, she took the child, walked to the river and drowned the child. Shantanu couldn't believe this, that his firstborn son was drowned by his wife. His heart burst out, but he remembered, if he asked her, "Why did you do this?" she will leave. The man who was floating around in joy and love became grief-stricken, afraid of his wife. But still he loved her so much and they lived. One more child came. She delivered another son, without a word, took this child and drowned him in the river. He was on the verge of insanity, he couldn't take it anymore. But he knew if he says one word, she will leave. The second child was drowned, the third one was drowned, it continued. Shantanu was completely horror-stricken. He looked at his wife in terror, no more in love, because newborn children, she takes them and drowns them in the river. 7 of them were drowned. The 8th one was born. Helplessly, Shantanu followed her to the river. When she was just about to do it, he went and grabbed the child and he said, "Enough! Why are you doing this inhuman act?" Ganga said, "You have broken the condition. It's time for me to go. But I owe you an explanation. Let me tell you why. You have heard of sage Vasishtha. Sage Vasishtha was living in his ashram and he had a certain cow which had divine qualities, which was known or named as Nandini. One day, certain Vasus means they're generally… the scripture goes about describing them as people who flew around in vimanas or some kind of crafts. They flew around. Their crafts are being described in great detail, how they flew, how they landed, what they look like, everything. They're even going to the extent of saying how the surface was so smooth, like the surface of liquid mercury. And they're saying, at that time, light means only fire. They're saying there were lights inside these crafts which had no fire, which had no oil, light burned by itself. And no horses, the craft was self-driven. These things they couldn't have imagined, okay? Something must have been seen. We don't know, we can neither prove nor disprove, but somebody could not have imagined this just like that. They must have seen something. So Vasus were flying around, 8 Vasus along with their wives were kind of holidaying on the planet. They were on vacation. Then they walked through Vasishtha's ashram and they saw this cow Nandini with incredible divine qualities. And one of the Vasu wives, whose name was… this Vasu's name was Prabhasa, Prabhasa's wife said, "I want that cow." Unthinkingly, Prabhasa said, "Come, let's get the cow." 1 or 2 of them said, "But this is not our cow, the cow belongs to a sage, why should we take it?" So Prabhasa's wife said, "Cowards always come up with excuses. You can't get the cow, so you're coming up with dharma." So Prabhasa became very macho, and with the help of his companions, they went and stole the cow. When Vasishtha realized that his dear cow is being stolen, he caught them and he said, "How dare you? You come as guests, we treat you well. In the end, you want to steal my cow and go. May you be born as human beings with all the limitations. Let your wings be clipped that you cannot fly. You have to walk upon this earth earth, you have to carry physical bodies, you have to be born and you have to die like everybody else. So, these 8 Vasus begged Ganga. Anyway, when she was in Devaloka and she got cursed, they begged her, make sure we are born in your womb, make our lives upon that planet as brief as possible. So she said, I was only fulfilling their desire, that they did not want to stay upon this planet, they just wanted to be born and be done with the curse. So 7 of them I saved, but 8th one you saved. Anyway, this is Prabhasa for you. And he is the one who instigated the theft. So maybe he deserves a longer life upon this planet. But because he's an infant, I will take him with me. When he is 16, I will bring him back. I will make sure he has finished his education. All that is necessary for him to be a good king, I will teach him and leave him with you when he is 16. She took the child and went away. Shantanu became listless and lost. Forlorn, he walked about, lost interest in his kingdom. One who was a great king became a frustrated, depressed man. He simply walked around not knowing what to do. 16 years passed and Ganga's and Shantanu's son, who was named as Devavrata, Ganga brought him and handed it over to Shantanu. Devavrata learnt his archery from someone no less than Bhargava or Parashuram himself. And he learned the Vedas from the Brihaspati. He learnt everything from the best possible teachers, fully ready to be a king. At the age of 16, a full-grown young man ready to take on great responsibilities came, and when Shantanu saw him, all his depression went away and he took to his son with great love and enthusiasm. And he coronated him as the Yuvraj or as the next king. Now that Devavrata was there and he took on the administration and he was doing everything well at his behest, he became free, once again happy, he went out hunting. He again fell in love. By then, this Matsya Gandhi had grown up into a dark, dusky woman. Being a fisherman's daughter, his father, the chief of the fisher folk who was known as Dasa, brought her up well and she was operating the boat for people to cross the river. They were on the banks of river Yamuna. And Shantanu was moving in that direction. In the meantime, sage Parashar came there and he wanted a boat ride. As he was riding this boat across river Yamuna, he was very deeply drawn to this girl, and this young fisher girl also drawn to the sage, and she was all the time struggling within herself because her brother, her twin brother is living in the palace, she's among the fisher folk. So she thought, if she makes an association with the sage, she may get somewhere. And they went and lived on a small island in the river Yamuna, a little island. And she bore a child for him, who was known as Krishna Dvaipayana. A dark-looking child was born. Because he was born on an island, he was called Dvaipayana. Because he was dark, he was called Krishna. So Krishna Dvaipayana, who later on came to be known as Veda Vyasa because he compiled the Vedas, who is the teller of this story. So, Parashar took the boy with him and went away. This Matsya Gandhi, one boon that she got from sage Parashar was, he took away the fishy smell and gave her that kind of heavenly fragrance that no human being had ever smelt anything like that. She smelt like a flower that did not belong to this earth. So, she had this phenomenal fragrance for which they changed her name as Satyavati. She smelled of truth. She smelled of something which is not mundane. She smelled of something which does not belong to this world. And this became her draw, and when she was in this condition, Shantanu, who was little, out of his depression, proud of his son, once again happy, he looked at this woman and fell in love with her. Then he went to Satyavati's father and asked for her hand in marriage. Dasa, the chief of the fisher folk, however mean, still a little king by himself. Not a king with a great kingdom, but a king of a small fisher folk community. Still he has some politics and calculation in him. When he saw the emperor begging for his daughter's hand, he thought, this is a time to make a deal. He said, it's all right, I would be willing, only if my daughter's children will become the future kings of the Kuru dynasty. Shantanu said, how is that possible? I have coronated my son Devavrata. He's an able young man. He is the best king that Kuru kingdom can have. That is not possible. This wily fisherman looked at the king, saw he was hopelessly in love. He said, then forget about my daughter. Shantanu begged. The more he begged, the more the fisherman realized, this is it. The hook and the sink and the float, everything has sunk. So not the time to give up, time to draw the big fish. He said, it's up to you. If you want my daughter's children should be the kings of the future. Otherwise, go live happily in your palace. Shantanu went back to the palace, once again a depressed man. He couldn't shake Satyavati off his mind. Her fragrance invaded him in such a way that he lost his mind. He lost interest in the affairs of the kingdom. He simply sat down. Devavrata, a dutiful son, looked at his father and asked, Father, what is it that's bothering you? Everything is going great in the kingdom. What is it that is bothering you? Shantanu just shook his head and put his head down in shame, unable to tell his son what is bothering him. The dutiful son that he was, he went and asked the charioteer who took Shantanu hunting. He asked, what happened in the hunt? After this hunt, my father is no more the same man, something has happened to him. What happened? So the charioteer said, I don't know what happened. I took him to this fisher folks' chief's house. Your father walked into his house, and when he walked out, he was like a ghost. He walked in as a king with great enthusiasm. He was full of love. I can see he's fallen in love with this woman, but when he walked out, he was a ghost. I don't know what happened. So Devavrata went there and found out what had happened. When Dasa said, this is all it is, it's a simple demand. He wants my daughter, all I'm saying is, her children should be the kings of the future. It's a simple condition. But the only problem is, you are standing in the way. Bhishma said, that is no problem. I need not be the king. I promise I will not be the king, I'll never be the king in my life. Let Satyavati's children be the kings. The fisherman smiled and said, that is fine. As a young man, out of your bravado, you can say these things. But tomorrow when you have children, your children will fight. So this is not possible. Devavrata thought, what is this? I am telling you I will not be the king. Let Satyavati's children be the king. What more do you want? He said, that is not it. You will have children. I will not be there to extract a promise from them tomorrow. Devavrata said, I will never marry, I will never have children to ensure that Satyavati's children will have the right to be the kings. The fisherman was having his meal, carefully taking the bones off the fish. He looked up and said, young man, I appreciate everything that you're saying, but you do not know the ways of life. You may not marry, but you may still have children. Then Devavrata took the extreme step of castrating himself. He castrated himself and took a vow, I will never have children, I am incapable of having children, will this satisfy you? Then the fisherman said, yes. Then everybody said, this is the harshest thing a man can do to himself. So they called him Bhishma, one who took the harshest treatment upon himself. Not forced into it, willingly took such a step. So he was called Bhishma, and Shantanu married Satyavati. With Satyavati, he had two children. The first one was known as Chitrangada, the second was known as Vichitravirya. Chitrangada, an arrogant young man, went out one day into the forest. A Gandharva, Gandharva means beings who came from elsewhere with extraordinary skills, who also had the same name Chitrangada. When this Gandharva asked this boy, who are you? He proudly said, I am Chitrangada. Gandharva laughed and said, how dare you call yourself Chitrangada? I am Chitrangada. You better change your name. This is my name. You are unfit to carry my name. If at all, if anybody carries my name, it will be my son, not you. Take away your name. So this young prince stood up and said, how dare you say, it looks like you've lived too long. Come, let us fight, because my father has named me Chitrangada and this is my name. Gandharva said, there can be only one Chitrangada. They fought. In a moment, the boy was dead and the Gandharva left. So there was only one son left, Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya means… Vichitra means strange or could be distorted. Virya means masculinity. So he is a strange masculinity or distorted masculinity. We don't know exactly what, either he was a eunuch or he was very weak or he was a homosexual, either unwilling to get a wife or incapable of getting a wife. This getting a wife, getting a child, don't look at it in today's context, it is the most important thing at that time. Because being a king, the first concern is that they must have sons. Because otherwise, who is next in the lineage? Every day you're going out into the battle, whoever you may be, you may get killed. If you get killed, do you have a son or not is a very, very important aspect. So that's why they're always thinking about, at the earliest possible age, take a wife and have a son. Because if you don't have a son, your whole empire will go somewhere else. So Vichitravirya was unwilling to take a wife. Bhishma is unwilling to take a wife. So Kuru dynasty is at a standstill. But now the concern of the Kuru dynasty that there is no progeny. Bhishma is out. He is there taking care of everything for his whole life. He remains the regent, never to become a king, taking care of everything, taking care of everybody, but he cannot sit on the throne and rule. Chitrangada is dead. Vichitravirya is unwilling to find a bride. In this situation, the king of Kashi announced the Swayamvara of his 3 daughters, and they did not send an invitation to the Kuru house. The Kuru dynasty is the biggest and the most respected in the region, but they did not get an invitation for the Swayamvara. Bhishma was inflamed. They did not send the invitation because they don't want their girls to be married to Vichitravirya, about whose masculinity there is rumors. So Bhishma could not take this affront because Bhishma is committed to his country, to the Kuru dynasty, above his own well-being, above anybody's well-being. He is a patriot. So, to correct this affront, he went to the Swayamvara. Swayamvara was in progress. The word Swayamvara means the young woman is allowed to choose her own destiny. So when a princess has to marry, they will set up a kind of an event where anybody who thinks they're eligible in the Kshatriya clan, when I say Kshatriya clan, this is the warrior class of people. And the young woman can choose her husband, it's her choice, nobody intervenes in this. There are 3 girls, all the 3 sisters have come to Swayamvara at once. 18, 16, 15, 3 girls, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. The 18-year-old one has already fallen in love. The king of Shalva, whose name was Salva is his name, Shalva is the kingdom. So, she's already fallen in love with him and she can choose him on that day. So first the older girl is to choose, and the simple way of choice is that she is given a garland, she looks around at all the men and she will choose one man and garlands that man and he becomes her husband. So she went for Salva and just garlanding him, Bhishma walked into the Swayamvara. Other warriors who were sitting there, they fear him because he's a great warrior. At the same time, they know he has castrated himself and he will never marry. So they taunted him, "Why has the old man come here now? Is he looking for a bride? Or why the Kuru house does not have a warrior who can come and take a bride? Is that the reason why he has come?" Taunts flew around. Bhishma flew into a rage that his nation and his clan is being ridiculed. So, he kidnapped all the 3 girls. He abducted all the 3 girls and took them, and the other warriors gave battle. He defeated all of them. Then Salva himself fought because his bride is going away. He defeated him, humiliated him and took all the 3 and left. Amba, the other 2 are happy, a brave warrior has abducted them. So this is the change that has happened from the previous generations, where a woman could set conditions, now she is being grabbed and taken and she's proud of that. So the other 2 are happy that they're being taken by the Kuru clan. Though the groom who is supposed to win them has not come. An old man has come to win for him. Amba is all teary-eyed. She told Bhishma, after this battle is over and they continued the journey towards Hastinapur, which is the capital city of the Kurus, she said, "What have you done? I was in love with this man and I've already put my garland on him. He is my husband, you can't take me like this." He said, "I have taken. What I take belongs to the Kuru." So she asked, "Will you marry me?" He said, "Not for me, you will marry with Chitravirya." Forcefully he took him there, took all the three there, and marriage happened. The other two married, Ambika and Ambalika. Vichitravirya refused Amba, saying, "She placed the garland on somebody else, she has given her heart to somebody, I will not marry this woman." Then Amba asked, "What am I supposed to do now?" Bhishma said, "I am sorry, you go back to Salva." So she happily went back. When she went back, she had a shock. Salva said, "I am not here to take charity from somebody. I lost the battle. The old beast defeated me and now he is trying to give me a charity bride. I will not take her. You go back. You go back and marry Vichitravirya." "No, I have been refused." "Okay, you marry Bhishma, but I am not taking you back because I will not take a charity bride." So refused from both places. She again came back to Hastinapur and she insisted, "Bhishma, you must marry, you have destroyed my life. You took away the man I loved, you brought me here forcefully, and the person whom I am supposed to marry here, he will not marry me. You will not marry me. What is this nonsense? You must marry me." He said, "My allegiance is to my nation. I have given word that I will not marry and that's all." In total desolation, she walked out. I want you to imagine, it's 5,000 years ago, a princess rejected from everywhere. She cannot go back to her father, she has no husband, so her man is not taking her back. She just went out, not knowing where she's going, in absolute desolation. Amba moved from despair to desperation, from desperation to anger, from anger to rage, from rage to thirst for revenge. She went from place to place, asking someone who can kill Bhishma. She said, "This man destroyed my life. Is there any man, any warrior who is willing to take this man's life?" Nobody was willing to have a fight with Bhishma because of his warrior prowess. And another aspect is, when he took this vow of to never to marry and castrate himself, at that time Shantanu said, "For what you have done to me today, I will give you a blessing. These 18 years I have been a brahmachari and I have done certain tapasya, certain sadhana within myself, all the merit that I have earned within myself, all the energy that I have picked within myself, I will make it into your blessing and offer it to you, that in your life you can choose your death. When you have to die, you can choose. Nobody else can decide when you will die. Only you can decide when you will die." So with this blessing on his side and the kind of warrior that he was, nobody was willing to take him on. So Amba went, moved into the Himalayan region and went into deep austerities. She sat upon the snow-clad peaks and went into a deep state of sadhana, calling for Kartikeya, the son of Shiva, who is a great warrior, because in her mind she thought Kartikeya should be one person who should be able to kill Bhishma. Kartikeya, pleased with her austerity, appeared, and when she said, "You must kill Bhishma," he said, "My time of killing is over." If you do not know this, Kartikeya, when he came down south, slaughtering everything that he saw as unjust, in his quest for justice, he went about slaughtering everything that he saw as injustice. And he came to the place which is now known as Subramanya in Karnataka. For the last time he washed his sword and he said, "Never again this sword will see blood." And he gave up violence in his life and went up the mountain which is today known as Kumar Parvat and left his body there. And in his disembodied state, when she called him, he said, "I have shunned violence. I cannot take to kill again. I cannot kill Bhishma, but looking at your plight and your devotion, I will give you a blessing." Here, he gave her a garland of lotuses. He said, "You take this garland. Whoever wears this garland will kill Bhishma." Now, with great hope in her heart, once again with this garland in her hands. These garlands have always been a disaster for her. The first time she took the garland, something else happened. Once again another garland, a lotus flower garland, she took it and walked from town to town, village to village. Is there anybody who is willing to wear this garland and kill Bhishma? No man was willing to touch. Then she went in search of Parashurama. Parashurama was the teacher for arms training, especially for archery. Parashurama was the teacher of Bhishma. When she went and prostrated herself before Parashurama and expressed her plight, Parashurama said, "Don't you worry, I will fix this for you." He called Bhishma. Bhishma came and prostrated himself. Parashurama said, "Enough. Enough of your vow and your nonsense. Just marry this woman." For the first time, Bhishma said, "You are my guru. If you ask me to take away my own head, I will do it. But do not ask me to break my vow. I have taken a vow that I cannot break." Why are these people like… You will see continuously, there are men who will take a vow no matter what, life or death, it doesn't matter what it causes, they want to keep that word. Why this is so is, these are times from totally uncivilized existence, people are striving to bring civilization. In this effort, a man's word is the most important thing. There are no constitutions written down, there are no penal codes written down. In such a condition, a man's word is the most important thing. If I say something, I do it and do it at any cost. If a man who can't keep his word is not a man, because there is no law. When there is no law, a man's word is the only law. So, you will see continuously through the story, when somebody gives a word, they will go to such extraordinary lengths to keep it, because if they break that one thing, they will be no more respected, they will be no more considered as worthy of anything. So Bhishma said, "For you, my guru, if you want, I will take my head away right now, but I cannot break my vow." Parashurama is not used to disobedience. He is obedient. When his father asked him to take away the heads of all his three brothers and his mother, without a thought he lopped off all the four heads. And then his father was pleased with his obedience and he asked, "Okay, you ask for a boon, what do you want?" He said, "I want the lives of my mother and my brother." So, he gave back the lives. So, obedience or disobedience is one thing that Parashurama cannot take because that's how he's grown up. When he saw Bhishma is unwilling to obey, he went into a rage. He is raged for a long time, he is a super angry man. He took a vow that he will kill every Kshatriya that he sees, and they say in the Kurukshetra, he left 5 ponds of blood by slaughtering Kshatriyas. Every Kshatriya that he saw, he slaughtered them because of the affront that the Kshatriyas did to his clan, and he left 5 ponds of blood, which Kshatriyas believed later on that by taking a dip in these ponds, they would become warriors who were indomitable. So Parashurama and Bhishma had a duel. An extraordinary duel happened between them, and Parashurama had taught Bhima everything that he knows, and he found that he could not beat him. Both of them fought bitterly for days on end. Then they found nobody could be the winner. So Parashurama threw up his hands and told Amba, you have to find somebody else. So her journey with the garland continued, and she came to Drupada's court. King Drupada, the king of Panchala, was the second largest empire in the Bharatvarsh. She came there and asked Drupada. Drupada did not even want to touch it, did not want to come anywhere near Amba because by now Amba's reputation like a ghost, she is walking from village to village, town to town, thirsting for Bhishma's blood. When Drupada refused to see her, out of total frustration, she hung these lotus flowers. These lotus flowers continued to remain fresh, given by Kartikeya. She hung it on one of the columns in Drupada's palace and left, once again desolate and depressed, straight up to Himalayas. And Drupada was so afraid of this garland, he didn't let anybody touch it. Every day they lit lamps, worshipped the like garland, but nobody touched it, nobody had wanted to have anything to do with it. And she continued her journey to the Himalayas. She sat there in great austerity. Slowly, a young woman, her beautiful body wilted down to just bones. She sat there, mere bones and skin, and called for Shiva. Shiva himself appeared, and she said, you must kill Bhishma. Shiva said, is it not best that you get to kill Bhishma? Then you will enjoy the revenge more than me killing him, isn't it? Suddenly her eyes brightened up. Her body was just skin and bones, but her eyes brightened up and she said, how is it possible? I am a woman and he is a great warrior, how can I kill him? He said, I will bless you, in your next life you will kill him. Then Amba said, but in my next life I will not remember all this, so I will not know the sweetness of revenge. Shiva said, don't worry, I will make sure that you remember. When the time comes, you will remember, you will know the sweetness of revenge. For all that you have suffered, you will have it. So she sat there and left her body to come back. You heard those Western movies, I will be back. She didn't say that, she quietly left. In the Kuru clan, Vichitravirya dies of consumption soon after his marriage to Ambika and Ambalika. Then once again, another generation left without a progeny. The mother, Satyavati, it is her ambition and desire which did what it did, who wants her children to rule, but now her son is dead without a progeny. Now she calls Bhishma and she says, enough of your vow. You take these two young women who were just married and their husband is dead. You take them as your wives and let the Kuru clan continue. The word Bhishma itself means severe. He took such a severe vow and it's everything to him. You should hear what he has to say. Bhishma said, "You don't even begin to know me or what my dharma is. But then how could you? Let me make this clear once and for all, so I never have to repeat myself. The earth may lose her fragrance, water its sweetness, sun may lose his lustre, or the moon his enhanced coolness. Lord Dharma of the Devas may abandon his truth, but Bhishma will never break his oath. My oath is everything I live by. That day, at your father's hut, my life changed forever. My oath is my truth, and truth for me is greater than all anticipated rewards of heaven. So it's not just kingdom that I forsake, I even forsake heavenly possibilities, I even forsake mukti if it's necessary, but I will not forsake my oath. To understand the next part of the story, you must understand this is his state and this state never changes. Because of this one thing, he does many things which he would not have done otherwise. And more than that, he allowed many things, horrific things to happen, simply because he wouldn't break his word. If he only broke his word, he could have changed the whole situation any time he wanted. But just to keep this one word, he did everything, because he is so attached to what he considers his dharma. Because there is no law, every man makes his own law. The word that I speak is my law. Now he's spoken this word, no matter what, he will not change it. From this context, the story grows.
Bhishma, right from the beginning, looked like he was a very passionate and, as you said, a patriotic man, and all his life was about his nation. But he made a vow also for this. And now what is his dharma? To uphold the traditions, uphold the nation? Or what was his dharma to keep his vow? Because at some point it looks like they're contradicting. Even when he had to break his vow to keep the nation going, he refused to break his vow. And an intelligent man like that, how did he make a contradicting, or did I understand it wrong?
Intelligence means a certain sense. Is Bhishma the most intelligent man? Definitely not. With little intelligence, he is trying to reach to his ultimate nature. That is his intelligence. With little intelligence, the man is managing to reach his ultimate nature. You have to admit that he is intelligent to that extent, but he is of little intelligence. Why I'm saying little intelligence is, anybody who lives by a vow is of little intelligence. People who live by slogans are of lesser intelligence. People who live by scriptures are even lesser intelligence. If you were truly intelligent, you would live by your consciousness, isn't it? If you were truly intelligent, you would live by consciousness. You set this kind of dharma because you know You are not intelligent enough to manage your life unless you fix a line for yourself. You know that you will for sure flounder if you do not fix a track for yourself. That is the intelligence that he is displaying. You have to acknowledge him for that. And he is sticking to his track. You have to acknowledge his integrity. Integrity, yes. Intelligence, no. Bhishma stands for phenomenal integrity. You can trust this man with anything. He will not go back on his word. But intelligent? No. So, why does he take such a vow? Because that is the only way he can make his life sensible. If he does not have a fixed line for himself, he will get lost. He knows that. And this is the truth with most human beings. If they don't fix a line for themselves, they will get lost. He is intelligent enough to recognize that.
I wanted to clarify how, because Mahabharata, since King Bharata, you briefly mentioned him, I just wanted to clarify how he's related to the Kuru dynasty and why it is called Mahabharata, or this nation is called Bharat. So I just wanted to clarify, so King Bharata is the son of Shakuntala and Dushyanta, and he had 5 sons, and I didn't get what happened after that, how the 5 sons are related to the Kuru dynasty. I had one more question, just a curiosity. This super sun that our solar…
Ask one, because you're already taking back 6,000 years and…
Just wanted to know if it's a particular star in our constellation.
It is a star. The 5 suns, the one main reason or one of the important reasons why Bharata is held in such esteem is, all this we are talking about, the whole story is just that. Everybody is desperately trying to make their sons the kings. That is the story of monarchy. Well, that is the story of democracy too. God damn it. Monarchy means just this, that your children will rule the country. The dream is your children will rule the world. For the first time, an emperor was enlightened enough to see consciously, if he did not have children, that's different. He has his own 5 children, but he chooses another boy for his capability. Though he is labeled as an illegitimate child, he chooses that one and puts him to rule his empire. Oh, okay, he let somebody else rule his empire. That's not a simple thing. People are not even willing to give away their little property to somebody. Even their lousy little property has to go only to their children. Yes? Even if it's the size of the grave. A whole empire, he has 5 sons, but he says, no, they will not make the best kings. This boy will make the best king. It doesn't matter, he has no social standing. It doesn't matter, he has no parentage. It doesn't matter, he doesn't come from the kind of pedigree that people approve of, but he is suitable to be an emperor and he chooses him. That is a huge enlightened way of thinking for a king or an emperor 6,000 years ago. You have to bow down to him for that, isn't it? Above all, it's called Bharatvarsh because this was many small things. You need to understand the history a little bit because as we use other names, confusions will come because there are stereotypes, understanding about these things. When I say Asura, when I say Rakshasa, there are negative connotations to it. But how these things have come is, there are some that they're talking about alien beings, that's different. But largely they're talking about alien tribes not anymore, but for some time whenever I went to United States, when I went into the immigration counter, I always had to stand in that counter where it's labeled alien. I think, okay, I'm an alien. And I look at everybody else in the queue, nobody else fits the bill except me. So, they were alien tribes because the distances were so far away. There was no other communication. If people have to go, suppose you lived here, let's say you lived in Velangiri mountains, at the foothills of Velangiri 5,000 years ago, would you meet people in Delhi or Haryana? Would you meet a Haryana Jat for any reason? If you had to meet that creature, it was a long journey. It must be your life's ambition to walk all the way to Haryana and meet that man. I am not talking about Europe or Africa or America, I am talking about within India. If you have to meet that man in Haryana who is 2,700 miles away, you would for sure not meet him, isn't it? So, people here thought they are alien tribes. People there thought these are alien tribes. So there are two levels in which they're talking about aliens. Alien tribes and celestial beings. Those who do not belong to this planet, those who belong to this planet but do not belong to our world. Do you understand? Even today, I'm it's quite amusing. If you go to Midwest America, you will see in some two-bit town, okay? A one-horse town, you go there, it says, world's biggest car dealer. Well, in Wabash, Indiana, the world's biggest car dealer, I think, oh my God, in Wabash, Indiana, world's biggest car dealer? They said, no, we just put like that in the Midwest. World's biggest car dealer means in the next 100 miles, he's the biggest car dealer. Because the newspaper he reads talks about nothing beyond 100 miles. He lives within that space, so for him that is the world. Even now, even the major newspapers in United States report like this, Chicago Bulls are playing against whatever, New York Yankees or something, and they say it's a world championship. If United States is playing against some other country, it can be world championship. Chicago Bulls and New York City cannot be world championship, but that is how it is done. I'm saying, in this culture at that time, Bharatvarsh is the world. In this world, there are us and alien tribes. And there are also celestial beings who do not belong to this planet. Now, coming to this aspect of Bharata, why is, in those times, he created the boundaries of the known world. He lived for an extraordinary length of time and he spread the boundaries of his empire, more by inclusion than by conquest. Some of it he conquered, rest of it he included. So, for those times, the largest empire on the planet was Bharata's empire. So the world belonged to him. So it was called Bharatvarsh. This is the world of Bharat, not a nation, please understand, it's the world, because there was no other world. This is all the world is. South of Himalayas is the world. Beyond that, aliens lived somewhere. So, he created the world. For those days, he created the boundaries of the world because he spread himself. For the first time, an empire touched the shores of Indian Ocean, so it became Bharatvarsh. And the word Bharat has many meanings. One interesting meaning is Bha-ra-tha, means it's one of the connotations of his name is Bha means bhava, Ra means raga, Tha means tala. Bhava, raga, thala means this is the fundamental of music and dance because he established such a stable nation. Everybody was included and he established such a stable nation that people lived in absolute joy. Music and dance and arts and sciences evolved in such a phenomenal way that his name naturally began to connote that Bha means emotion or bhava, Ra means raga, which means the tune, Tha means tala, the rhythm. So he became the emotion, the tune and the rhythm of India. So the nation itself took on his name as Bharat. It's unfortunate that since 1947, we largely dropped that name and went for a name that was given to us in recent times by people who conquered this country. That was a huge mistake we have done. It doesn't mean anything. The word India doesn't mean anything, it's a mispronounced word. भारतं महाभारतम् धर्मसङ्घर्षणम् पक्षिप्राणिमानव च देव धर्म अधर्म पाञ्चालिका ज्ञानप्रभासित दिव्यजीवम् सर्वे सर्वमहामृतम् सर्वे सर्वमहामृतम् भारतम् There's another important event taking shape elsewhere. This is the story of the lineage of the Puru. Yayati's son Puru, his lineage. Yadu came down south to where is the present town of Mathura. There, different tribes lived. These tribes, Andakas, Bojakas and Vrishnis and Nagas, these four tribes, these are tribes which did not believe in having a monarch or a king. So Yadu came down and married into Naga tribe. Here, these clans were ruled by a council, not by a king. Yadu was cursed by his father never to be a king. So he came and married into the Naga tribe and joined the governing council. So these four clans together became known as Yadavas because Yadu became the chief of this clan. These four clans together became Yadavas, and a few generations later, Vasudeva was born. Vasudeva's sister was Preeta and Suradevi. These two sisters, Preeta was given as in adoption to his brother Kuntiboja, who did not have children. So he loved this girl so much that he gave his own name to her. Instead of calling her Preeta, he called her Kunti. Vasudeva had two wives, Devaki and Rohini. Devaki had a brother whose name was Kamsa. Kamsa was born out of a rape. Because everywhere else, the tradition and the dharma of the day was, it does not matter how a child was born. If a child was born to a mother who belongs to a certain clan, he became a legitimate part of that clan. But the Yadavas rejected Kamsa. They called him an illegitimate child. They refused to include him into the governing council, though he was a great warrior, because he was, what to say, he was too obnoxious and vulgar in his ways. But he made friendship with another great king of the east, who was Jarasandha. Because of his support, he gathered numbers around himself. For the first time in the Yadava clan, he dismissed the council and wore a crown and said, "I am a king." There was no monarchy in the Yadava clan, but Kamsa came in and claimed that I am the king and dismissed the governing council of elders. So once he was the king, he was the undisputed power, so he went about doing things in his own crude ways. People suffered much, but they couldn't do anything because he had great friends. Jarasandha was a very big force, so nobody dared to oppose Kamsa. He was cursed that he will be killed by his sister's child. When he came to know that Devaki's children, eighth child of Devaki is going to kill him, he said, "I will take care of this, don't you worry," and he imprisoned Devaki and Vasudeva. And they have to count, eighth child is going to kill. You could make mistakes. Suppose you miss the eighth one and I thought it's the seventh one or something happened, you don't want to risk your life. So first child was born and that day Kamsa walked in, a just born infant, he picked it up, holding its legs and smashed it on the floor. The mother was aghast and somehow they wanted to get away from this, but they cannot get away, they're imprisoned. The next child was born, again Kamsa comes in and smashes it up. This continued. Then the eighth child is to be born. On the other side of the river, in Gokul, the other wife, Rohini, has borne a son whose name is Balaram, who is a little elder. He is before Krishna, and Krishna used to be born. Now they are determined that they must somehow make this child survive, not just for the sake of the child, because they want this tyranny to end. So many things are said, but basically they hired certain occult people who put the soldiers who were guarding the prison to sleep. And Vasudeva took the just born child across the river, and there Yashoda, Nanda's wife Yashoda, had delivered a girl. So he placed this just born male child there, took away the female child, brought it back here. So when Kamsa came in the morning and saw the child is a girl, he couldn't believe it, because the eighth one is supposed to be a boy and he's supposed to be his killer. But he doesn't want to take a chance. Who knows, a girl can turn into a boy tomorrow. Why take a chance with your life? So he tried to pick it up. So Devaki pleaded, "See, it's just a girl. She's not going to kill you. It is not a boy who is going to grow up and kill you, this is a girl. She will get married and go away. Please spare her life." He had nothing doing. Why take a chance? So he just picked up the girl, twirled her, threw it up, but then the girl didn't fall down. She took on a different form and she said, "The one who is to kill you is still around. I am not the one, you missed it. Then Kamsa became terrified, looking around, where is this child? When he could not find it, he said, any child who's born in this region, any child within 3 months of age, kill all of them. Soldiers went out, slaughtering every infant within 3 months of age. They don't want to take a chance. Somewhere he may be hidden. They went about killing every child under 3 months of age. But Krishna was thriving. Vasudeva has 2 wives, Devaki and Rohini. The only surviving child for Devaki is Krishna, and for Rohini, she has Balarama and Subhadra. Vasudeva's sisters, Sruta Devi marries Dhamagosha. The other sister, Preeta, who later is known as Kunti, marries Pandu of the Kuru clan. So here in Gokula, Krishna is growing in a cowherd family. There are many exploits. The first thing is, when Kamsa realizes that Krishna is still alive, he sends a Rakshasa woman, smearing her breasts with poison. She comes. It was natural in those days that any woman could breastfeed any child which needed to be fed, because women did not make distinction between this is my child and this is your child. Those problems came only when it came to kingdoms and other kinds of things. But when they were infants, they were not distinguished, anybody could breastfeed. If a woman offers to feed a child, it was never refused. So Putana came to breastfeed Krishna, but with poisoned teats. And Krishna realized this and he sucks life out of her. So starting from this, there are many events like this which are magical, miraculous, defeats logic, all kinds of things. But we will let him grow up without all that. Krishna grew up into a young boy, became the darling of the town. He dressed with so much care when he was just 7, 8 years of age, that he was very concerned how his clothing was. When he stepped out, he never stepped out of the house without a peacock feather. That is the best decoration you could find, and he made sure he has the best always, with the best smile, with the best attitude, with the best dress, because he believed this is one thing that every human being has to do, that to everybody around you, you have to do your best in your appearance, in your voice, in your word, in your thought, in your deed, in everything. With this he lived always. Nobody ever saw him in any other condition. When he woke up, the first thing he did was he smiled. Not cried, not smiled. Tomorrow morning you just wake up like this and see. For the sake of this one and the sake of that one, isn't this the best thing you can do? Isn't this the best thing you can do? It doesn't matter, you only see the ceiling, you don't want to see who is around you. It is all right, you can smile at the ceiling. No? A ceiling is wonderful, it's not even yet fallen upon you, it may one day. Don't make the house in which you live into your grave. Palaces have become graves because people are staring at the ceiling. That you do when you're dead, you know. There will be a ceiling close up and you stare. You can stare as much as you want. Now is the time to live. So he was an embodiment of life. It is not that he has constructed himself in some kind of morality or goodness or this or that. It's just that he's an explosion of life. Nobody could help loving him. And as he grew, he became the darling of the village and the villages around. The rumor spread, there is a boy like this. Just hearing stories about him, just everybody fell in love with him. Women, whether they were 6 or 60 and anything in between, they all fell in love with him, even if they had not seen him, because people spoke, there is a boy like this, a miraculous boy. Nobody has ever seen him off. He is always on, never off. Okay, Sadhguru, tell me. This is off. Huh? Just on, super on, fully charged and on all the time. Krishna is not valued because he's right or wrong. In fact, he's a failure. Whatever he wanted to do, his mission did not succeed. But people love him and worship him 5,000 years later because he was just on, no matter what. It doesn't matter what was happening, he was just always super on, never off. Because the purpose of life is life, and he was a living embodiment and representation of that. He was simply life, all the time life. Generally the image is that he just played, he played his flute, he danced around with young girls, he romanced. No, that he did only till he was 16 years of age. After that, he lived a deadly serious life with a great mission on his shoulders. Making kingdoms, making kings, fighting wars. They say even in a war, he went with a smile. There are only 2 situations or 3 situations where he dropped his smile for a moment. We will come to those situations later. Otherwise, except for these 3 situations, even in the battlefield when he fought, even when he was defeated in battle, even when he had to run away from a battle, still he went laughing and smiling. So this is Krishna, many things happening around him. Not always right or wrong, but life and life and life alone. He didn't let anything else happen. He did not allow depression to happen. He did not allow anything else to happen, just life in its full charge, never low battery. Ambika and Ambalika, 2 young queens without a king. And now Bhishma with this vow, not getting anywhere. Satyavati with her burning ambition that her children should become kings. After much thought, she calls Vyasa, Krishna Dvaipayana, who is her son, born upon that island, born to Parashar. Parashar being the father. Vyasa became a sage and moved away. Vyasa was very dark in his skin, and he was dreadlocked, lived in the jungles, doing all kinds of austerities, gained great amount of tapasya. A very powerful being, and he promised his mother. He left her. She had last seen him when he was 6 years of age. But he told her, "Mother, whenever you want me, you just call me. When you really need me, you call me and I will be there." Many years had passed. She had never called him. In her desperation, now what to do? There's a huge empire, 2 young queens, no king. There is a good regent who will manage the kingdom, but no future. Somebody else will come and take your empire, that's what it means. So she called Vyasa, and Vyasa appeared. She told Vyasa, "You are my son, you should not say no to whatever I ask of you. I have never asked anything from you till date, but now what I ask, you should not say no." Vyasa bowed down and said, "Whatever you say, mother." She said, "You must father children from these two young queens. I want my blood to flow in the Kuru lineage. You are the only one left. I know you are a sage, I know you're an ascetic, but this one thing you have to do for me." Vyasa unhesitatingly said, "Yes, mother, whatever you want." So it was set up. She somehow tried to convince the young queens. They said, "No way." But she compelled them. She said, "You cannot say no." She's the queen mother. She said, "Whatever I say is an order, it's not a request." So she told Vyasa to go to Ambika first. So Vyasa went to Ambika's quarter. Ambika looked at Vyasa. He's just straight out of the jungle, dreadlocked, very dark, burnt out in the sun, and he had a flat nose and looked like a very fierce man. When she saw him, out of sheer dread, she closed her eyes and Vyasa impregnated her. But because she closed her eyes, a child was born that was blind. Once again Satyavati, frustrated because she can't make a blind man into a king. She said, "You must go back to Ambika." Ambika was not ready. She said, "Not once again." So that night when Vyasa came, she arranged for a maidservant to be in her bed. Vyasa came and slept with the maidservant and went. Out of this Vidura was born. When Satyavati realized that it was the maidservant and not the queen, she went into a rage. Now he cannot be the king because the child has to come from the queen. Then she compelled the younger queen, Ambalika, to go with Vyasa. She saw Vyasa. Out of fear, she was told not to close her eyes. She just looked at him, the way he was. Out of fear, she just paled out. And Pandu was born, an albino, pale of skin. But he became a fine young man. But in those days, an albino was kind of inauspicious, that he was strange. But still, he became a great warrior, but they couldn't make him a king because at that time they thought an albino has a skin disease. A man who has a disease cannot become a king. So they made the blind man the king. Dhritarashtra became the king, but Pandu managed everything. He fought the battles, he made the empire much bigger, he managed everything. Dhritarashtra was a namesake king. A blind man became the king. In every way blind not just blind of vision, in every way he was blind to many things which he will display later. Vidura, born of the maid, grew up into a fine young man, a very intelligent and wise being, well-versed in Shastras, well-versed in the Vedas, well-versed in the political system, but not a warrior, because the art of fighting was taught only to the Kshatriya. He was not eligible to learn from Bhishma. So he learnt all the other things, but he never became a warrior. Pandu became a great warrior, but he cannot become a king because he's an albino and people think he has a skin ailment. Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, the princess of Gandhara. They did not tell her that her future husband is going to be blind. She was a little depreciated bride because it was written in her horoscope, whoever marries her will die within 3 months. Because of this horoscope, nobody would marry her. Because of that, they got her married to a goat and sacrificed the goat. But still, legally, it was a marriage and she was a widow. So she came to Hastinapur to marry Dhritarashtra, a blind man. When she realized that she is marrying a blind man, she took a vow, if my husband cannot see, I don't want to enjoy the world with my eyes. And strapped her eyes, she said, I will never remove this unless he can see, I will not see. So for the rest of her life, she tied a strap around her eyes and denied herself sight, which she naturally had. So two blind people. One was bad enough, isn't it? Pandu married Kunti, and he also took another wife, Madri, the princess of Madra, and Kunti, the daughter of Kunti Bhoja, or adopted daughter of Kunti Bhoja, who grew up as Pritha and later on became Kunti, who is Krishna's aunt. She married Pandu. Pandu went hunting and he was a young man with 2 young wives, with lot of conquest behind him, but no children. No children is a big problem. For a king, no children is a big problem because if he doesn't have children, so many things are questioned. Above all, the future is a big question for the kingdom. Who is going to be the king? The moment they see there is no strong prince growing up, just about everybody will become ambitious. This is the political problem. So there is a worry, no children. He was hunting and he saw deer in a state of lovemaking. Unconcerned, he thought it's a good shot and he shot. He was such a good archer that he shot both of them with a single arrow. He wanted to do that. When he did this stag, which happened to be a sage who had taken on this form, as they were dying, he said, there is a law among hunters that a pregnant animal, a love-making animal, you don't kill because future generation is in the making, you don't kill them. That is the law of the hunter. You broke that law. For having done this, let it be so. If you ever go to your wife with any kind of desire, if you touch her, you will have a violent death. But no children yet. And now he has 2 wives and he cannot go to them. Once again, the same problem, Kuru clan doesn't have a progeny. So Pandu got so frustrated with his situation. Once again, previous generation the same situation, once again the same bottleneck. Out of his frustration, he gave up all the power and authority that he had there and he chose to go and live in a forest along with his wives. He just engaged himself with the sages around and kept himself busy trying to forget that he is a king. But the deep frustration kept growing within him. One day, when his frustration reached its peak, he told Kunti, what shall I do? I want to kill myself. Because if one of you do not bear children, the Kuru clan is lost. Because Dhritarashtra also does not have a child. And his children need not be the kings because he is blind, he is not yet the king, he is just waiting king. At that point, when he expressed his frustration to a point where he wants to commit suicide, Kunti revealed something about herself. She said, there is a possibility. He asked, what? She said, when I was a young girl, when Durvasa, the sage, came to my father, I played the hostess. He was so pleased with me that he gave me a mantra. He said, if I use this mantra, anytime I can call for any of the gods that I wish. If I think of a god and use this mantra, he will come and be my lover and I can bear his child. So if you really wish, I will do this for you. Pandu was more than eager. He said, please do it. Whom shall we call? She had already called somebody, which she did not tell. That was in the past, she did not tell. She said, I have the mantra, I can call. So Pandu said, whom shall we call? They thought, and Pandu said, we must call Dharma. If we have a king for the Kuru clan, we must have Dharma's son. Dharma is also known as Yama, who is the lord of death and justice. So he said, let us call Dharma. So Kunti withdrew into the forest and called for Dharma. Dharma came and she bore a child, and this child was named as Yudhishthira, the first of Pandu's sons. A year passed by, Pandu became greedy. He said, let us have one more child. Kunti said, no, we have a son, the Kuru clan has a progeny, this is more than enough. He said, no, we must have one more child. He begged and pleaded, what will they think of me? That I have only one son, after that what has happened to me? Please have one more. So whom do you want? So he said, let us call Vayu, let our son be really strong. We have dharma, but we need strength. So let us call Vayu, the god of the winds. So she withdrew and she called for Vayu, and Vayu came. Because he was such a fierce presence, they could not stay there, so he took Kunti and went away. There's a beautiful description here in the verse of Mahabharata where Vayu takes Kunti and goes away. Initially he crosses the mountains, then the oceans. Detailed description, it's very uncanny. The oceans, and then flies away into Ksheera-sagara. Ksheera-sagara means an ocean of milk. Does it resonate something within you? A Milky Way. He flew into the ocean of milk, beyond the ocean, beyond oceans and everything. And then he took her around and he showed her how the earth, which everybody thinks is flat, is actually round. He tells her that when it is day here, where we are in Bharatvarsh, in another city opposite to this, it is night. When it is night here, it is day there. And he says, in that country, in that land, also great sages and seers and warriors exist. Directly opposite to India, if you go, if you dig a tunnel, you will end up somewhere in Mexico. So he's talking 5,000 years ago that there is another kingdom on the other side and clearly saying the earth is round. Galileo was not born. That he's clearly saying the earth is round, and on the other side of Bharatvarsh, there's another great civilization where this is the kind of people who live there, their skills and their capabilities, he's talking about it. And then she bears another child, the son of Vayu, Bhima, born as a strong man, grows up to be described as the strongest man in the world. After some time, Pandu gets greedy. He says, I know this is greed, but after seeing these two beautiful sons, how can I resist this? I want one more son, just one more. Kunti says, no, no, and time passes by, but Pandu won't leave her. Then she asks, okay, who? He says, let's get Indira, the king of all gods, nobody less than that. So she invites Indira and she bears another child by him. He is the Arjuna, the greatest archer and the greatest warrior. He is known as the Kshatriya, that means the warrior. Mahabharata refers to him as the warrior. There has never been another warrior like him and there never will be. So he is a war machine. He finds his fulfillment only in a battle. So he was born, Arjuna. The three very divine children started growing up, displaying phenomenal skill and capabilities and intelligence. All the focus was upon these three children and the mother who bore them, and of course there's another young wife who neither have any kind of husband in reality nor children, so she's just a woman hanging around. So naturally things grew in her, slowly sweetness became venom and it started spilling out. So one day, Pandu noticed that Madri is no more the sweet bride that he had. Her face looked venomous. So Pandu asked, what is the matter? Aren't you happy? She said, what is there for me to be happy in this place? You and your three sons and your wife, that is all the world is. What is there for me to be happy? After initial argument and fight, she said, if you can ask Kunti to teach me the mantra, I will also bear children, then you will pay attention to me also. I will also be important, otherwise I'm just a hang-on right now. Then Pandu understood her plight. He went to Kunti and said, see, Madri needs a child. Kunti said, why, my children are her children too? She said, no, 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 that's not it. She wants children of her own. You know what that means? Her own. So can you teach the mantra? So Kunti said, I cannot teach her the mantra, but if it is necessary, I will use the mantra, she can call for any god that she wants. So she took Madri into the forest, into a cave, and she said, think of the god that you want, I will use the mantra. She used the mantra. This young woman was confused, whom shall I call, whom shall I call, whom shall I call? This many things flying around, and when she used the mantra, she thought of two Ashwins. Ashwins are not gods, they are like demigods, but they are generally referred to as… Ashwa means a horse. It's got something to do with the horses, something to do with that clan who were experts in dealing with horses and managing horses. So she had twins of these Ashwins, and they were called Nakula and Sahadeva. So Kunti had 3 children, Yudhishthira, Bhima and Arjuna. Madri had 2 children, Nakula, Sahadeva. But then Pandu wanted more children. For a king, more sons he has, better it is, because battles will happen. When battles happen, the number of sons do not increase, they decrease. So it's best to have maximum number of sons if you want to conquer, if you want to rule the land. Kunti said, this is it. Then Pandu pleaded, okay, if you are not willing, use the mantra on Madri. She said, nothing doing. Because whichever queen has the maximum number of sons will become the main queen. So she was not willing to give the arithmetic advantage that she had right now. She had 3, Madri had 2. She didn't want to give away that advantage. She said, nothing doing. We are not using the mantra anymore. So, these 5 boys grew up as Pancha Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas. The sons of Pandu were referred to as Pandavas. They are king's children or royal clan, but born and grew up in the forest till they were 15 years of age. In the palace, where Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari are there, Dhritarashtra is blind by nature, Gandhari is blind by choice. Dhritarashtra is worried. He wants his wife to have the first child because in a generation, the firstborn will become the king. So they are desperate to have a child. He was whispering all kinds of endearments to Gandhari, somehow bear a son for me. Gandhari became pregnant. Months rolled. The 9 crossed into 10, 11. Nothing came out. They became anxious, but by then they got news. Pandu's first son was born, Yudhishthira was born. They went into a depression because Yudhishthira is born, so naturally he will become the king. 11, 12 months, she still did not bear. Out of her frustration, she beat her stomach. Still nothing happened. She said, what is this? Is this dead, alive? Is this human? Is this a beast? She beat it, did not come. Then she asked one of her servants to bring a stick and beat her stomach. After that, she aborted. When she aborted, a dark piece of flesh came out. The moment they saw it, they were terrified because it was not like human flesh, something very evil and ominous about it. They say, when this happened, suddenly the whole city of Hastinapur was terrified because they heard sounds, they heard jackals screaming, wild animals walked the streets, bats were flying in the daytime. The signs were clear that something wrong is going to happen. The sages who observed this closed their eyes and turned away from Hastinapur. So once the sages turned away, the news came, the sages are all turning away from Hastinapur, they don't want to be here. Vidura came and told Dhritarashtra, we are heading for big trouble, something is wrong, something wrong is going to happen. But Dhritarashtra was so anxious for a child, he said, leave it, What has happened? What has happened? Why is it everybody here screaming and what is all these sounds? Because he cannot see. Then Gandhari called Vyasa. Sage Vyasa had promised Gandhari, when once he came after a very long journey, she tended to his wounded feet and took care of him so well. He said, "Whatever you wish, I will make it yours." She said, "I want 100 sons." He said, "Fine, you will have 100 sons." So she called Vyasa and she said, "What is this? You bless me with 100 sons, but I deliver a lump of flesh which doesn't even look human. It doesn't even look like it's come from my body, it is something else. Discard this in the jungle, bury it somewhere." Vyasa said, "Till now, anything that I've said has never ever gone wrong, nor is it going to go wrong now. You bring that piece of whatever." And he took it into the cellar and he asked them to bring 100 earthen pots and sesame oil and other kinds of herbs. He cut this piece into 100 pieces and put it in these pots, sealed it and kept it in the cellar. And then he noticed a small piece of it was left. He said, "Bring me one more pot." And he said, "You will have 100 sons and a daughter." And he put it, sealed it, put it in the cellar, and another year followed. Because of this, it is said Gandhari was pregnant for 2 years, 1 year in her womb, 1 year in the cellar. After a year passed, the first pot broke and out of it landed a huge boy, a baby, a huge big baby with serpent eyes. That means even when he was born, he did not blink. His eyes were just steady, unseeing and straight. When all these ominous sounds and signs happened, what should happen in the night was happening in the day. The blind Dhritarashtra felt something was wrong. And he asked Vidura, "What is wrong? Something is wrong. Is my son born? What is happening? Please tell me." Then Vidura said, "Yes, you have a son." And slowly all the other pots started hatching up. All sons started coming. And from that one pot, a little girl came. Vidura said, "You have 100 sons and a daughter, 101. But I'm telling you, this one son, your first son, have him killed." Dhritarashtra said, "What? To have my firstborn killed? How is that possible?" He said, "You will be doing a great service to yourself and to the Kuru clan and to the humanity. You have your firstborn killed, you will still have 100 children, 99 sons and 1 girl. They will be harmless without him. With him, they will be the destruction of everything that we have known as this world." When all this is happening, Gandhari picks up Duryodhana, the first son who is born, and she's ecstatic that she's feeling and touching her firstborn. She does not hear all these sounds, she does not feel all these omens. She's ecstatic that her son is born, her first son, a huge big baby. She's very eager to nurture him and make him grow. Then Vidura says, "The wise have always said, an individual may be sacrificed for the good of the family, a family for the good of the village for the good of the country, and everything, even the world itself may be sacrificed for the sake of the immortal soul. Oh my brother, it is for the soul of the mankind that this monstrous child of yours has come from the depths of hell to corrupt and destroy. Kill him now. I swear his brothers will be harmless and you can enjoy them. 99 princes, but him you must not leave alive. But Dhritarashtra's flesh, attachment of the flesh, is way bigger than his wisdom. So Duryodhana grows along with the 99 other boys. Pandavas grow in the forest, and these 100 princes grow here in the palace in Hastinapur.
Sadhguru, I want to know a little bit about Gandhari. She's the queen mother and she's the mother of 101 children. So she may not have been involved in the administrative processes of the court. So what was her role and what does it talk about the society at that time?
Being born blind is tragic, you know. But I want you to understand the mind of a person who chooses to be blind. In many ways, she is worse than Dhritarashtra because she's choosing to be blind, that's the message. Dhritarashtra is blind, but she's choosing to be blind, which is a different matter, isn't it? So, Gandhari has chosen to be blind. When Duryodhana was born, even the blind Dhritarashtra kind of on the wall, should I take Vidura's advice? But Gandhari doesn't even hear it. She will not even hear it. She did not hear it does not mean her ears were deaf. She doesn't even hear it because when you're consciously blind, you will not see whatever you don't want to see, isn't it? Have you not seen, you're living in a family, have you not seen sometimes people have selective hearing? So she's consciously blind, she's chosen to be blind. That is what this tape is stating, that she has chosen to be blind. Whether she actually walked around with a tape around her eyes or not, that's not the intention, that's not the point. The point is, she has chosen to be blind. Being a woman, sitting in the court, if not as a queen mother, as a woman, she should have stood up. She's chosen to be blind. And you will see her qualities little more later.
This question is on Krishna. You had talked about his birth and also his reminder at the age of 16 where his enlightenment basically. Was there any sadhana that he did before? There was also an expression that he evolved out of a saligram. Was there something behind before that brought him to such a state in this life? He's also talked about as an avatar of the maintenance operator.
Maybe people who have grown up in the traditional Indian atmosphere would have definitely heard of a term called Nara Narayana. These two sages, Nara and Narayana, partnered in many births. Again and again they came back together. They were enjoined in their being, so again and again they came back and their adventures go on into thousands of lifetimes. Thousands. Not all of it is preserved, here and there, snatches about what they did in their previous lifetimes. It's like we are going ahead of the story. Here again, Krishna and Arjuna are recognized as Nara Narayana. Arjuna is Nara, Krishna is Narayana, once again two beings enjoined. You will see Krishna will go to unreasonable lengths to keep Arjuna's friendship because they are enjoined in being. Many times, the prince that Arjuna is does not understand why he must do this or why he should take this course. He is taking on a lofty stance that a human being can take in his life by being compassionate, by being loving, by being generous. Krishna is saying that is not it. That's not why we're here, that's not the deal, okay? That's not the deal why we're here, we will do only this. Arjuna says, but this is compassion, this is love, this is generosity, this is my dharma. Krishna says, nothing doing, you and your dharma, we have a deal. We are born for this, we will do only this. So, there is that dimension. About Krishna's sadhana, you need to understand this. For a human being to live from the moment he is awake in the morning till he falls dead in the night, every day, in joy and love, itself is a tremendous sadhana, you must know this. People with depressed faces, when somebody is there, if nobody is there, if they're just walking on the street, what kind of face they carry when they are not observed? That says everything about that being, understand? When he is under observation, when his way of being is stimulated by something outside, he is different. You are alone, you're just walking, nobody is observing you. How do you walk? Say everything about you. Let me not hit percentages, but you will see a bad percentage of people are quite horrible by themselves. Anybody who cannot be alone. If you're bored when you're alone, obviously you're in bad company, isn't it? If you cannot be alone, that means you're in bad company. If you were in great company, it would be great to be alone, isn't it? It would be more like a festival to mix with people, but being is always in aloneness. If you made this into a beautiful being, to sit here is fantastic. So, this itself is a great sadhana. From the moment of wakefulness till you fall dead in the night, every moment you're joyful is not a simple sadhana. Do not take it lightly. It's a tremendous sadhana. That means every moment of your life you're loving. Not when this happens and that happens, not when you see this person or that person, you're simply loving. If you're simply loving, indiscriminately loving, then your intelligence blossoms in a completely different way because now in making choice, it is getting crippled. Why I'm saying in making choice it is getting crippled is, see, to be loving is not a gift to somebody. It is a pleasantness of your system, isn't it? Your emotion is pleasant, your mind is pleasant, naturally your body becomes pleasant. This is not a gift to anybody, this is a beautiful thing for yourself. And we have substantial scientific and medical evidence to prove today, only when this is pleasant, your intelligence functions at its best. If your heart beats 60 times per minute in restfulness, in activity, it can go up and down. If you simply sit here, if it is beating 60 times per minute, you are in tune with the planet. If you're above it, you're little lost. You will see, if you just have a little bit of an infection, you touch and see it will be hitting 85, 90. You're healthy and well, probably for many of you it'll come down to 65 to 75. If you really… you just do your sadhana, simple things that we have given you, okay? Just do your Surya Namaskar and your Shambhavi for 1.5 years' time. You touch it and see for sure it'll be 60. You are in tune. When you're in tune, being loving, being joyful, being like a flower is very natural to you because that's how the being is made. This being is not made to be depressed or sick or nonsense. This being is made to flourish, isn't it? This is Krishna's sadhana. He is in perfect tune with life around him as a child. He is playing all kinds of games, it doesn't matter, but he is in fabulous tune. You will see this, that all these things, his sadhana of this kind, of just being in tune with everybody. See, everybody loves him means you must understand, it's just another way of saying, everybody loves somebody means somewhere, knowingly or unknowingly, though he steals butter from their homes and he does dirty things with them and he plays tricks with them, he does all kinds of things, all kinds of pranks he plays on them, but still everybody loves him means knowingly or unknowingly, somehow he has gotten them in tune with them, isn't it? Only when you feel in tune with somebody, you will feel pleasantness. When you don't feel in tune with somebody, they don't have to do anything wrong to you, if you just look at them. Yes or no? Tell me you have enough experience. Even with the same person, have you noticed this? When you are in tune with that person, if you look at him, pleasantness. You are not in tune with that person, you look at him, unpleasantness. They don't have to do anything. Have you noticed this? You married, you know. So, his sadhana is being in tune till 16. At the age of 16, his guru, Sandipani, comes and reminds him that his life is not just about playing around here, there's a bigger purpose to his life. He struggles a bit. He loves the village he's living in, everybody loves him and he is totally involved with everything around, from man, woman, animal, child, everybody is involved with him. He is deeply, deeply involved with everybody. He struggles. He says, I don't need any great purpose. They say, no, you have a great purpose to your life. Krishna says, I don't need any great purpose. I don't want any great purpose. I just like to be in this village. I like the cows, I like the cow herds, I like the gopis, I want to dance with them, sing with them. I don't want any great purpose in my life. But Sandipani says, that is not it. You have to stand up because this is the purpose for which you are born and this needs to happen, and he reminds him in a certain way. He goes and stands on a small hill which is known as the Govardhan hill. He goes up this mountain and when he comes down, he is no more the same boy. That playful boy in the village suddenly came down with a different gravity about himself. People looked at him and they were shocked. They knew something phenomenal happened, but however phenomenal it is, they know they're going to lose him. Suddenly, his eyes did not show love, his eyes showed vision. When they looked at him, he looked back at them, still smiling, but there was no love in his eyes, there was vision. He was seeing things that they could not even imagine. So, after Sandipani reminded him of this, the first exploit was for him to kill his uncle, that was Kamsa, to end the tyranny that was being unleashed upon the Yadavas. And then he withdrew into the ashram of his guru Sandipani, along with his brother Balaram and his cousin Uddhava. And he lived the life of an ascetic, a brahmachari, for next 7 years. Till he was 22, he lived in the ashram doing very intense sadhana of both alms and spiritual process. So there is sadhana. Krishna's sadhana was so intense, leaving the alms training. The spiritual sadhana was of a different dimension and nature. Even though he trained in alms, he did not become all muscle. Like Arjuna was all muscle, Bhima was big muscle, everybody became muscular with their arms training. But Krishna remained gentle and tender in spite of his arms training, and he became a great wrestler. In spite of that, he did not become bunched muscles because his sadhana was largely internalized by Sandipani, largely made mental because he did not belong to Dwapara. He performed and lived like he belonged to Satyuga, where everything was mental for him. Sandipani need not open his mouth and give an instruction. All was conveyed mentally, all was grasped mentally, all was attained mentally, that he need not do anything physical. So when they came out of sadhana, a distinct difference, his brother Balaram became huge and muscular, but Krishna remained like this. So Balaram used to taunt him, maybe you did nothing, I have been working hard, I have become a great warrior, who are you? Who look like this? But in the wrestling ring, nobody could take him. In the archery context, nobody could take him. As a swordsman, very few people could come anywhere near him. But he did not become muscular because it was purely mental, his sadhana. And he displays that in a million different ways as the story goes by. Megha, the dark mystic of the ages, arrives not with a bundle of messages, but with mischief that enamors kings and sages, determined to have his way. With a smile he did commit, ravish, deceit and slaughter even. Life does not absolve him of taint, but could not bind him even a moment. He is no saint or sage, but glowed with wisdom for all ages.